All right, here we are once again, and as you could see there, we are previewing the Xfinity Series in NASCAR at Daytona. And joining me for today's show, of course, is Jay, and I am Sharon, Fan4Racing, and we are ready to go here, Jay.
Well, almost. There's a couple more glitches I'm trying to work through, but I'm trying to get the lineup or the entry list pulled up. I'll have that by the time we get to it.
Okay, that's fantastic. Okay, now then, we are going to be reviewing the NASCAR Xfinity Series. I am going to go ahead and give you the updates here with regard to timing of the race and all of that. So the race is actually called the United Rentals 300 at Daytona International Speedway. They're racing on the 2.5-mile asphalt oval of Daytona International Speedway. And that race is tomorrow, Saturday, February the 15th at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, the CW network will have some pre-race coverage for you, and that starts at 4 p.m. Eastern, and radio coverage is available on MRN and SiriusXM NASCAR Radio Channel 90. The distance of the race is 300 miles over 120 laps. First two stages are 30 laps each. And so stage one ends on lap 30, stage two on lap 60, and then the final stage is another 60 laps, ending on lap 120, unless, of course, we go into overtime. So there we have it, Jay.
What are the odds we go into overtime racing at Daytona in the Xfinity Series?
Highly likely, for sure. All right, now we do have some storylines here for Daytona. And first of all, 2025 is the 44th season for the Xfinity Series. They've been racing there since 1982. So 44 years for the Xfinity Series at Daytona, Jay.
Well, and we'll kind of tie that into what might be coming as far as hot topics, but throw it out there so fans know Xfinity Series is not renewing at this point, renewing their title sponsorship for next year. There's still going to be a premier partner involved with NASCAR, but not the title sponsor for the Xfinity Series. So more to come on that. We'll talk about it maybe in hot topics, and then just got to wait until we find out what is going to replace them. So that's a storyline just heading into the season.
That is so true. I'm going to miss the Xfinity Series. They've been a great sponsor for this series, Xfinity and Comcast, and it'll be interesting to find out who can fill those shoes. So let's go ahead and get started. We've got Austin Hill, 7 wins on drafting tracks. He's tied for third all-time with Dale Earnhardt Jr. and behind only Dale Earnhardt and Tony Stewart with 8 each. That's amazing. Austin Hill is fantastic on these tracks. He's got 532 laps led on the drafting tracks. He ranks third behind Dale Earnhardt at 573. I've got a feeling he might catch up to that. And Dale Earnhardt Jr. with 691.
Well, and he's continuing his stats here. He's won the Xfinity Series season opener at Daytona the last 3 years. And that's the record for most consecutive wins in a season opener, which is the record. The record for the most is 5 by Dale Earnhardt. And that was between 1980 and 1994. So he's on that stretch. Yeah. That's one of those, having been greatly involved in NASCAR, realize how good he's been at Daytona, but not that good that you mentioned. Being on the third all-time with Dale Earnhardt Jr. and then being behind Dale Earnhardt and Tony Stewart for certain stats, and then having that record of 3 in a row, looking to maybe reach Dale Earnhardt with 5. Yes. I didn't realize it was that strong. I knew it was strong, but not that strong.
Austin Hill has a very strong performance. As they mentioned, 3 wins consecutively at Daytona International Speedway. And it's just amazing. If he wins again, he'll have 4, getting him closer to the great ones on super speedways like Dale Earnhardt and Dale Earnhardt Jr. So I can't wait to see what happens. I hope he stays in the Xfinity Series to try to tie some of those records. But yeah, I think Austin Hill is certainly one to watch this weekend at Daytona International Speedway.
And that goes beyond, first off, you talk about drafting style track as such as Daytona, the ability to race your way to the front and be in position to have a shot at winning, but also then, as some want to call it, luck, but the skill to avoid being taken out by something not of your own doing. I mean, that really is tremendous when you talk about that.
Yes. So I'm not going to fault him if he doesn't win this year. But yeah, you speak to just how hard it is to do exactly what he has done, especially at a super speedway track where anything can and usually does happen.
I would just think of, and several drivers have differing opinions, but Dale Earnhardt and Jr. were definitely two that said, if you're out front, you're staying out of it. We talked about the laps he's led on drafting tracks. He's up there. So that may be the key. Stay up front and it all happens behind you.
Yeah, that's my favorite way to do it anyway. All right, let's talk about Harrison Burton. He finished top 10 in all 4 of his Xfinity Series starts at Daytona, and he also won the Cup race there last August. So Harrison Burton is coming back to the Xfinity Series this year. He was racing in the Cup Series with Wood Brothers. He was out of that seat because Josh Berry has taken over that seat. So now we get to see him back in the Xfinity Series. I think it's going to be a good move for Harrison Burton. I think he's going to be a strong contender.
And this is part of why I love doing this show with you, Sharon, and getting the NASCAR news of knowing Burton was coming back, getting some stats on him, though. The finishing in the top 10 in all 4 of his Xfinity Series starts at Daytona so far. Plus, I wasn't aware of that, but knowing he's coming off that Cup Series victory at Daytona,
yes.
I certainly was looking at him as a driver to watch, but adding that to it, and I know at the end of the show, we're going to say, who do we think is going to win? Well, we already got 2, and there's 2 of us. So how many do we each get to pick?
Well, you know who my pick's going to be.
Yeah, well, that's probably true. Now, one thing to add, though, is once we look at qualifying, because 14 of the last 16 races were run from a top 10 starting position, including 5 from the front row. And that leads to that be out front, stay out front.
Yes, you want to qualify well, but you've got to make sure that if you do get that good qualifying spot, you want to stay there. And if you come from behind and get up into the top, again, you want to stay there because most of the time, I think about the duels last night. During one of those finishes, they were saying they're wrecking behind the leaders, but the leaders were able to get to that finish line and everybody behind them was wrecking. So you want to be up front, I think, at Daytona.
Most certainly. That's where I know we'll get into the hot topics. We haven't talked a whole lot about the duels, but they didn't quite make the start finish line. That was the controversy. So there's some discussion on social media about that, but
okay, let's talk about the 4 of the last 9 Xfinity Series races at Daytona ended up with a last lap pass for the win. The most recent came in 2023. So those last lap passes are nice to watch because you never know who's going to win until it's over. And there was a close finish last night, too. We had to wait to find out who was going to win that race.
And that's where I don't want to jump ahead here as we get into the overtime finishes, but even just the last lap pass, no matter what lap it's on, that's why I love this with the super speedway racing, because as these lines, you have the drafting help. These lines, it's a matter of when you get to the very end or close to it, as the case may be, that you don't know. And especially then, and I think back to Atlanta, they had a great segment on last night in between the duels and qualifying and everything else, and I'm trying to think of the name of it now, but it recapped the closest race at Atlanta last year of a 3-wide finish, because if somebody goes to split it up, it's not just 2 lanes, it could be 3 lanes, and that's what we get at your super speedway races, and especially at Daytona. All the drivers talk about it, winning at Daytona in the NASCAR series of any level is just a huge, huge thing.
It certainly is. And we'll definitely see if it happens this time. It would be a lot of fun if it does.
Now, when we look at it, those 16 drivers have won the last 19 Xfinity Series races at Daytona. It's only Austin Hill with those 3 wins, and then Justin Haley, who have multiple. Justin Haley having 2. And I remember when he was the one they said was the super speedway king. Obviously, Austin Hill has taken that title and crown from him, but we'll have to see then. Other than that, outside of those 2, you're talking 16 out of 19 of different winners. I love that. I love to see the variety and the competitiveness of it's not always the same one. It's impressive when somebody does it, but it's nice to see somebody new.
I agree with you, Jay. It makes it a lot of fun to watch the super speedway races because you just don't know who's going to win until the very, very end of that race. And there's always back and forth and people come driving up through the field. You always see that happening at a super speedway race like Daytona. So to me, it just makes it that much more exciting to watch. Now, 4 of the last 5 races at Daytona ended with an overtime finish. We were talking about this. Expect an overtime at Daytona.
That's kind of funny. I joked about it. I was previewing what we were going to preview because, I hadn't seen that stat yet, but 4 out of 5 overtime finishes in the last 5. We know it. I mean, again, you talk about the big one. And then the next thing to look at is 4 of the last 6 have ended under caution. Now, that means they could be on the white flag lap, like happened last night in the duel. They were on the white flag lap, actually, what'd they say, 50 to 100 yards, but the caution came out. And on the white flag lap, that ends the race, unfortunately. But there again, that's what we're looking for as far as expectation. That don't mean it's going to happen, but the odds are in the favor of that.
Okay, well, now when you talk about Daytona, you got to talk about Richard Childress Racing. They've won the pole for 6 of the last 7 races on drafting tracks. Richard Childress Racing has a storied career throughout the year, and Richard Childress Racing is carrying on that tradition, taking the pole in the last 6 of 7. Guess who else drives for Richard Childress? Austin Hill.
That's where I was going to be. You got to pair that up. You got a team like Richard Childress that has that capability and know-how set, and you get a driver like Austin Hill. You put the 2 of them together, and you're setting records, as we've talked about here, between the 2 of them.
Yes.
Now, the race winner, talking about winning, not just the pole, but winning, the leader or the race winner has led 20 or more laps in the Daytona season opener in 4 of the last 6 years. So that's a little bit different considering we're saying of it, so much back and forth and whatnot, that the race winner has actually led 20 or more laps. Again, go back to be up front, stay out of the wrecks, and that's how you do it.
Yeah, we've talked about it in previous videos. I'm not a fan of the drivers that sit in the back and show up at the end. I would much rather see them be up front, and this proves that out. The winner leading 20 or more laps. So that's pretty good. Now, Ford has only won 1. This is kind of surprising. Ford has only won 1 of the last 32 Xfinity Series races on drafting tracks. And that was Austin Cindric at Daytona in February of 2021. Ford is big on these drafting tracks in the Cup Series, but not so much so in the Xfinity Series.
And this is one of those where I think I know some stuff about NASCAR and the Xfinity Series. This goes beyond what I would have put it at for sure. I know that Chevrolet, when it comes to the Xfinity Series especially, and we'll get to that in a minute, definitely the dominant, but 1 out of 32, that blows my mind.
That blows my mind too.
Now, Chevrolet has won 13 of the last 16 Daytona season openers. Toyota, again, we know they're not as strong on the super speedways. Their last win was 2008.
Yes, and I want to go back to the Ford topic just real quick. That tells you just how good Austin Cindric is, that he was able to break through that in order to win at Daytona in 21 when he was racing in the Xfinity Series. So I think he's got the talent. We'll see. He's on the pole for the Cup Series this year, so we'll see what happens. But Chevrolet is definitely dominant at Daytona. 13 of 16 races. Toyota has not won since 2008. That's amazing, Jay. I thought Toyota was going to break through last night. Based on our conversation for the Cup Series when we did that preview. It'll be interesting to see if Toyota can break through in the Xfinity Series as well.
Well, and one thing to throw in there as we're talking about this, and I'll add one more stat for Chevrolet. They've won the last 9 Xfinity Series stages at Daytona, and that's stage 1 and 2 throughout, what did it be, 5.5 races or 5 years. But the numbers, talking about Ford, again, Ford does not have as strong a presence in the Xfinity Series as they used to.
Very true.
It's been Team Penske and then Stewart-Haas Racing, which Haas, now the Haas factory team, will have 2 entries. But so the numbers are a little bit different, but I would have thought they would have been a little bit stronger than what we've read here. So it still kind of surprises me, but Chevy is the team to look at when you're talking about Daytona here.
And when you think about who your pick is going to be.
Right, yeah, there we go.
Okay, let's talk about the pole sitter. The pole sitter has only won 2 of the last 30 NASCAR Xfinity Series races at Daytona. It's happened twice. Austin Cindric did it in 21 when he won in that Ford, but Austin Hill did it in 2023 when one of his 3 wins there at Daytona.
Well, that kind of just shoots down everything we've been saying. Start up front, run up front. Apparently you want to start towards the front and run towards the front, but not necessarily be the pole sitter. That one too, man, if I were playing a trivia game, I'd have gotten that one wrong because I'd have put it at much higher than that out of the last 30. 2, that's unbelievable. Doesn't surprise me that one of them is Austin Hill, though.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me either. But Austin Cindric, I think, is very good on the super speedways as well.
And then the last one we got here, it's Colleague Racing or Richard Childress Racing. They've led the most laps in 8 of the last 11 Daytona races. And we have seen that. We talked about Richard Childress Racing already, but Colleague Racing, that is one of those where it's kind of their bread and butter. A lot of teams are that way when we talk about a super speedway race that a team can excel there and maybe go toe-to-toe with the big dogs. Some of the underfunded or not as strong top tier teams, when it comes to super speedway racing, they have a better shot at taking these victories away. And Colleague Racing, as they've built their team and moved up to the Cup Series, that was one of them where they certainly found their niche in the sport. I pulled up the entry list, and I'll start with the first ones, and it will not be at number 1 because we got the number 00, Sheldon Creed. He's running for that Haas factory team this year. Going to have Jonathan Toney as his crew chief, and the sponsor, I had to take a second look at that, Friends of Jacqueline. That is not, I thought that was just a note. He's friends with Jacqueline. That's the sponsor, Friends of Jacqueline. So how about that?
I'm sure that's a foundation charity, and he is supporting them this race. So I think that's fantastic.
That's awesome.
In the number 1 car is Carson Kvapil for Junior Motorsports. Andrew Overstreet is going to be his crew chief in that Chevrolet, and his sponsor is Bass Pro Shop.
And the wheel in number 2, that'll be a Richard Childress Racing entry with Jesse Love. He's got Danny Stockman calling the shots for him with that Chevrolet. And again, a lot of these are going to be Chevrolets.
They are. Parker Retzlaff is in the number 4 for Alpha Prime Racing. Joe Williams Jr. on top of his pit box. And Visual Pack Rewind at 10 is his sponsor for his Chevrolet.
Number 5 is going to be Chris Wright. He's driving for our Motorsports this year with Dan Stillman as the crew chief. And it'll be a First National Bank Corporation Chevrolet.
Patrick Emmerling is going to be in the 07 for SS Greenlight Racing. Paul Claprud is his crew chief, and the sponsor is Furman Power Equipment on his Chevrolet.
And if you're a race fan, you know all the information about the number 7. That is Justin Allgaier with Junior Motorsports. Got Jim Pullman as his crew chief, and the brand, the orange Brandt. Big shout out to him for racing his way in with the Junior Motorsports Cup Series entry last night.
Yes, indeed. I was so happy for him. Also, Sammy Smith is in the number 8 for Junior Motorsports. He has Philip Bell on top of his pit box with TMC Transportation on the side of his car.
We already talked a little bit about the Colleague Racing Chevrolets, one of them, and I'm looking forward to this. I like Daniel Dye. In that number 10, going to have Kevin Walter in his ear, and they're sponsored by Champion Container.
Josh Williams is his teammate in the number 14 for Colleague Racing. Eddie Pardue Jr. is his crew chief, and Alloy Employer Services will be on the side of his Chevrolet.
And this deal came together, I think, midway through the offseason. Garrett Smithley is going to be in the number 14 SS Greenlight Racing. I think that's kind of a partnership. Jason Miller is the crew chief. They don't have a sponsor listed, though.
Yeah, that happens quite a bit. Garrett Smithley, we've had him on the show. He does part-time Hollywood work. So it's kind of interesting that he's also racing, but he oftentimes will run without a sponsor. In the number 16 is Christian Eckes coming into the Xfinity Series this year for Colleague Racing. And he'll have Alex Yance as his crew chief with Celsius on the side of his Chevrolet.
And this timed out and worked out well. Sometimes that happens. I'll talk about the Minnesota boy again, William Sawalich in that number 18, Joe Gibbs Racing. Jeff Meandering on top the box of that Toyota with the sponsor Sound Gear.
Well, I'll talk about his Joe Gibbs Racing teammate in the number 19 car, Justin Bonsignor, with Seth Chavka as his crew chief and Menards and Swiffer as his sponsors this week.
Well, and when you're talking about Toyotas, it doesn't end there. As Joe Gibbs Racing has another one. He was a JGR driver, then he wasn't, now he is. The number 20 is going to be Brandon Jones as he comes back with Menards and Swifter as his sponsor, and Sam McCauley now as his partner in crime.
Oh, and let me correct myself. Justin Bonsignor has M3 technology on the side of his car. I got the lines mixed up there.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, next up we've got Austin Hill in his famous number 21 for Richard Childress Racing. He'll have Chad Haney on top of his pit box and Bennett Transportation on the side of his Chevrolet.
Highlight that one as one to maybe pick as far as a winner, but you can't argue against the number 24 either. That's the Sam Hunt Racing Machine of Ryan Truex. Going to be in a Toyota with BB Printing Company and Brian Gainey calling the shot. I just want to see him have a full-time ride and have a shot at running all year.
Yes, and I've got a feeling I'm going to be rooting for this next driver all year long, and that's Harrison Burton in the number 25 AM Racing with Danny Eflin as his crew chief. He's driving a Ford, one of the few Fords in the field this week, and Dead On Tools is his sponsor.
And Sam Hunt Racing, that's one of the organizations I like seeing building that team. They brought in the number 26 is going to be Dean Thompson on that Toyota. Chris Bone will be the crew chief, and I believe this goes with Dean Thompson of the Thompson Pipe Group.
Yes, indeed. Okay, next up, another Burton, Jeb Burton. I got lucky and got both Burtons this time. He's racing with Jordan Anderson Racing again this year. Mark Setzer is his crew chief for his Chevrolet, and Golden Corral is his sponsor.
And for RSS Racing, the number 28 is going to be Kyle Sieg with Wayne Carroll Jr., crew chief in that Ford with TopPool.com.
They've got another Ford listed for RSS Racing, but we don't know who the driver is yet. Kevin Johnson will be the crew chief, and that's the number 29 car for RSS Racing.
I wish I could fill in the blank there, but I don't know that I know the answer to that one yet. So we'll move on. The number. Do you know who it is? I
No,
hadn't
I
seen
don't.
yet.
I was going to
Okay.
say I can see if I can find it, but
Okay. We'll see if we find that before we end the show. But another one that's building an organization, and that's Jordan Anderson Racing. This one is the number 31. Will be Blaine Perkins, having Jeff Kirkendall calling the shots for the Warner Chevrolet.
what was the number of that car?
And the number 29 RSS Racing.
Yeah, they showed JJ Yaley.
Okay, there we go.
Okay, so it looks like JJ Yaley is going to be in that car. Let me see. Now, next up is Jordan Anderson for his team, Jordan Anderson Racing. He'll be in that number 32 car. Bruce Slicker will be his crew chief for his Chevrolet, and Volpe is his sponsor.
I would, if you want Sharon to take the next one. I know this is one we have a heart for here at Fan4Racing, but the number 35, Greg Van Alst, partnered up with Joey Gase Motorsports for this season. I don't know if it's for a full season, so just let me say at least this race. But Scott Eggleston is the crew chief for the Chevrolet with his company, CB Fabricating, and I believe, what was it, the Arkham Menard Series race he won there at Daytona last year or the year before? Has that been 2 years already, or is it last year?
It was maybe 2 years ago, I think. It was a highlight of his career, I'm sure. I don't think anybody expected that to happen. It was really fun to see. Okay, next up we've got Ryan Sieges with RSS Racing, his own race team, driving the number 39. Matt Noyce is the crew chief in his Ford, and SciAps is his sponsor.
Another one, I'm going to have to work on this year, making sure I don't mess up, but Sam Mayer, not with Junior Motorsports anymore. He is the second driver for the Haas factory team, which is a Ford organization. He'll be in the number 41 with Jason Trincheri as his crew chief and bringing Audibel on as the sponsor.
All right. Again, Ryan and Sam are both in Fords. Like we said, some not very many Fords in the field, so it's good to point those out. Another driver I've enjoyed watching his career, Anthony Alfredo in the number 42 for Young's Motorsport. He'll be working with Andrew Abbott at the top of the pit box for his Chevy and dude wipes on the side of his car.
And I know I talk about it, but I get excited about seeing organizations that are building and creating a team. Alpha Prime Racing is in that progression. And right now they got the number 44. That'll be Brennan Poole with Frank Kerr as his crew chief. And they got MacDoor Systems on that Chevrolet.
Yes, indeed. And Cesar Baccarella is back in the number 45 car for Alpha Prime Racing. He'll have Mike Teikstra in his pit box and Mongoose Power Solutions on the side of his Chevrolet.
Good news, bad news one here. We saw Parker Kligerman step away from full-time driving, but that Big Machine Racing brought in Nick Sanchez in that number 48. Going to have Patrick Donahue as the voice helping him out for the Big Machine Vodka Spiked sponsor. I'm
excited for Nick Sanchez coming into the Xfinity Series this year. I'm looking forward to seeing what he does. But here's a veteran in the Xfinity Series. In the number 51 car, Jeremy Clements for his race team. He'll have Case Kallenbach on his pit box and One Stop All South Electric as his sponsor.
And as we see a lot of, especially at these big races, the super speedway races, Joey Gase Motorsports going to have Joey Gase behind the wheel at the number 53. Mike Hillman, senior crew chief in that Chevrolet with NCPC Race Against Crime sponsorship.
And amongst all those Chevrolets, we now have another Toyota on the entry list. Driving the number 54 is Taylor Gray for Joe Gibbs Racing. Jason Ratcliffe is going to be his crew chief, and Operation 300, his sponsor.
Now, I know that one lists as Joe Gibbs Racing, but Ty Gibbs is involved in the sponsorship and leading that team.
Yes, that's a good point. Thank you for reminding us of that.
Now, another one, the name Leland Honeyman Jr. is going to be in the number 70, and that's part of the Cope family racing. George Church with that Chevrolet. Unfortunately, that one's got a blank under the sponsor.
Yes, we hope he is able to race several races this season by getting a sponsor. Now, the rest of these cars we're going to mention are all Chevrolets, so that's pretty amazing that there are so many Chevrolets in this series. Ryan Ellis is driving the number 71. He's known to be a crew chief and a driver, and I'm glad to see him back behind the wheel of the DGM Racing and times JIM, I believe that says. Mario Goslin is his crew chief on his Chevrolet and another car without a sponsor. So I hope Ellis is able to get a sponsor and race more races this season.
Well, Sharon, if you can help out here, I don't know what other site you were using. The number 74, Mike Harmon Racing, and they have a sponsor of Save 22, but they don't have a driver or a crew chief listed here.
Yeah, the driver is going to be Carson Ware for that number 74 car.
All right. Well, there we got one of the blanks filled in.
Okay, and the number 88 is Connor Zilich. I can't wait to see what he does with Junior Motorsports this season. He is a very talented driver, quickly rising up through the ranks. He's raced other disciplines, but I'm glad he's coming to NASCAR because of the talent that he has. Marty Lindley is his crew chief, and WeatherTech is his sponsor. So he's been an IMSA racer, so I can't wait to see what he does. I think he's going to be a championship contender this year.
Another one, we've talked about one or two already, but the organization DGM Racing by Jim, bringing Josh Balicki in the number 91, does not have a crew chief nor a sponsor listed for that one, unfortunately.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see how that pans out. I hope he is able to get the funding he needs to race more this season. The number 92 is CJ McLaughlin for the same DGM by Jim, with Steve Addington on his pit box. And again, no sponsor. So come on, sponsors. We need sponsors in the Xfinity Series for these drivers.
Wow, and Steve Addington, not a name I had heard as of recent, so great to see them, and I think that's a great addition. Talk about building an organization, having Steve Addington as one of your crew chiefs, that goes a long ways.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
The last one we're going to cover, number 41 on the entry list, is the number 99, Matt DiBenedetto, driving for Viking Motorsports, and that's the sponsor as well, so that tells you something there, but got Patrick Trison as his crew chief.
Yeah, I'm going through this list that I was using to fill in the blanks for us, and I don't see any others. Again, it's going to be JJ Ailey in the number 29, and the number 74 is Cody Ware. It's not on the entry list, but I was able to find the notes on that. So, Jay, I think we're at that point again with our preview. Is there anything else you think we should mention when we were thinking about Daytona Racing in the Xfinity Series? Let me just say this. I do think it's going to be an interesting year. We've got the veterans like Justin Allgaier, Austin Hill. A lot of these drivers are coming back, but we've got our staples in the Xfinity Series. But we've got drivers like Harrison Burton that's coming down from the Cup Series. We've got drivers coming up from the Truck Series and the ARCA Menard Series. I think this is going to be a banner year for Xfinity Series, and I'm sure we're going to see some things work themselves out. I'm excited about Nick Sanchez. I'm excited about Connor Zilich. I think there's a lot to look forward to in this series this season.
Yeah, I think we could go another half hour if we wanted to in talking about that. But the Xfinity Series as a whole, I know the Cup Series is the top level, and you're watching that. But the Xfinity Series this year, I think, is going to have some great storylines all year long. I believe the total, and you mentioned several of them, I believe the total is 9 Rookie of the Year contenders. Yes. Talk about Connor Zilich, Nick Sanchez, Christian Eckes, William Sawalich. That's one storyline. Then you're talking about some of these driver changes. Brandon Jones going back to Toyota and Joe Gibbs Racing. Sheldon Creed and Sam Mayer going over to that Haas factory team, newly created after Tony Stewart and Haas split. Carson Cavapel in there with Junior Motorsports. Junior Motorsports, always a story to themselves, and they got a perennial contender, your defending champion. You mentioned Justin Allgaier. Jesse Love, now, I don't know if you can call him a veteran yet, but not a rookie anymore either. Yeah. I think we see him step up into that championship contending category. So I think the Xfinity Series this year really could be one of the best to watch.
I want to mention Christian Eckes too. He was so good in the Truck Series, and I think he's going to be another contender in the Xfinity Series. And let's not forget about Matt DiBenedetto. It's always fun when he gets behind the wheel and is able to race. And I think the Xfinity Series might be a great place for Matt DiBenedetto.
Certainly, and you can go back as far as, I believe it was Elliott Sadler. We've seen Justin Allgaier go to the Xfinity Series and thrive there. So if you find your home there, that's great. I know, Matt, the goal is to get back to the Cup Series, and we saw that talking about the Haas factory team. Cole Custer was at the Cup Series, came back, got himself a championship, was an annual contender. He's now back at the Cup level. So, again, there are ways it can happen. Hope the best for him. I know he's one of your favorites, Sharon.
Absolutely. One of the drivers that we followed over the years here at Fan4Racing Radio is what I meant to say. So, Jay, it's that time.
That time, huh? Man, wow. I don't even know if to go to heart or what I think. Yeah, obviously we talked about Austin Hill. I'm going to avoid that one of just maybe. I'm excited, Sharon. I can't even pick one out. Like I said, to see that. You know what? I'm tired of seeing him finish second. I'm going to pick Sheldon Creed. Give it to Ford. Go with the Ford. Go with Sheldon Creed finally getting a victory. How about that?
Okay, I think that's a good pick. There are so many good picks, and I could probably list off about 10 people that I think could win this race. But I'm gonna go with my heart and pick one of the Burtons. I'm just going to say one of the Burtons is one pick. I think it's really cool that Jeb Burton's got a partner with his cousin also racing this race in Harrison Burton. And I think they're going to work together. And I think one of those two just might pull off a win at the Xfinity Series race this year.
Well, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but facts are facts. There are 41 on the entry list. The Xfinity Series only starts 38. So when you get qualifying later this afternoon, 3 of them going to be unhappy, sad, disappointed, whatever word you want to use.
You have any thoughts in that regard who might not make it?
There are so many factors. I wouldn't even be nowhere to begin. They don't have the charter system. So any kind of little issue, bobble or anything, you could see a top name going home. I mean, that's the hard truth of it.
Yeah, that's the hard truth, is exactly right. Nobody likes to see these drivers go home because they put so much effort into being there. There's a certain prestige with being able to race at Daytona for the season openers. And it's always heartbreaking when drivers don't make it into the show. So, but 3 are not going to make it. And so let me kind of go over the qualifying, the schedule. Starting today, Friday, February the 14th, you're going to have the Truck Series qualifying on FS1 at 3 p.m. The Xfinity Series will be practicing today on the CW network app, the CW app at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. Cup Series practice, their second practice is on Fox Sports 1 as well as MRN and SiriusXM radio. That starts at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. And then the Truck Series is back to race tonight on Fox Sports 1. That's their home for the season, as well as MRN and SiriusXM at 7:30 p.m. Eastern tonight. So definitely looking forward to that Truck Series race. I'm super excited about it. But then tomorrow, there's more. You've got the Xfinity Series qualifying. We just talked about how important that is. 3 drivers are not going to race in the big event, the race that takes place later that day. You can watch that qualifying on the CW app starting at 10 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow morning. Now, the ARCA race is that, I should say, 10 a.m. Saturday morning. Depends on when you're watching it. So that's Saturday morning at 10 a.m. The ARCA race is going to be on Fox, MRN, and SiriusXM starting at noon Eastern. So you'll want to tune in for that race. We've got a stream that's going to be out there with that preview. Also, the Cup Series final practice is actually going to be on Fox Sports 2, MRN, and SiriusXM at 3 p.m. Eastern on Saturday. And then the Xfinity Series race, the one we're talking about here on the CW network on MRN and SiriusXM, starting at 5 p.m. Eastern time on Saturday. Big event. And of course, what we've all been waiting for, the Daytona 500, is on Sunday, February the 16th. And Fox Deportes and MRN and SiriusXM starting at 2:30 p.m. Eastern. And so there is so much to look forward to in these next few days. We've got a taste now. Now we get to watch the rest of it over the weekend, Jay.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking of. Be like, we'd take a break here. I got to clear out my recorder and start setting some times up of all the racing we got this weekend. One thing I want to point out that you hit on there, the Xfinity Series this year has a home, and it is the CW network.
Yes, all the races all year long are on CW. And I hear they're doing some really exciting things on the CW network, like the split screen. I think we're going to see a lot more of the split screen. And I've seen some conversation about the ticker, the leaderboard. And they're doing something unique with the leaderboard. So I can't wait to see what that is. And we have had CW because for the last 10 races, CW covered the playoffs for the Xfinity Series last year. But this year, they're going to be on board all season long and through 2031. So CW is it for the Xfinity Series.
That's you got a better memory than me. I couldn't remember how long the deal was for, how many years, but you mentioned it. They did get their feet wet last year with the 10 races, just like we're doing here at Fan4Racing. They started and they worked through some bugs and whatnot. I know that NASCAR Productions is working in partnership with them, with the CW network. So you're right. I looked at big things to come through this year. And that ticker they're talking about, I think it's going to be a bumper on the bottom. Like you see on ESPN, the sports ticker, we call it, versus the side on the side. Okay. Scroll down. That was what I saw on it anyway.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure exactly where it was going to be. I just heard them talking about they're doing something unique. We'd like to just remind fans, too, that if you like what we're doing here at Fan4Racing Radio, please like and subscribe to our channel. It helps us grow the channel and get more features that we can use for our live streams that we're thinking about doing here. So please like and subscribe and continue watching the new videos as we bring them out. There is certainly more to come. Jay and I are talking about doing a Hot Topics segment as well as something on short tracks. And now that all these races, we've previewed everything now, Jay. Now we've got to think about all the reviews.
Right, yeah. Gonna stay busy.
We're going to stay busy. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We do appreciate you for watching what we've been doing and bearing with us as we go through our learning curve as we transition into YouTube, the YouTube world here. So thank you so much. And if you can like and subscribe, and also we are planning to bring you previews, reviews, and interviews. We haven't done any interviews yet because we want to wait until we're kind of more comfortable with our environment here. But we will bring some interviewees into our YouTube program and interview drivers and crew chiefs and people within the industry, different professionals. So we've had flag wavers, we've had photographers, we've had you name it. We try to get them on the show to talk with us. Crew chiefs, engineers. We've had a lot of different people over the years. So stay with us. It will get better as our learning curve improves as well. And also just a reminder to check out Fan4Racing.com, where we will have recaps of all the racing that's taking place this weekend at Daytona. I don't have the duels recap up there yet. I'm going to work on that next, but we will have recaps, and I'm going to try to do them as they happen so I don't get behind. And as our plate is really full as it is.
Well, I appreciate it, Sharon. I'm looking forward to, like I said, I mean, starting later this afternoon, a full weekend of racing, and hopefully get to talk to you on the other side when you start looking at doing those reviews.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm looking for, oh yes, this one. I wondered where it went. Hit the notify button if you want to be updated with new videos as they come out. You want to do that as well. So watch for more coming soon here at Fan4Racing Radio. And again, we really want to thank you for watching. And Jay, is there anything else you want to say as we sign off here?
No, I just appreciate it. And I know I got a busy weekend, Sharon, you as well. So enjoy what racing you can. Another couple of weeks, I'll be talking more about Jackson Motor Speedway, talking about short tracks. We're supposed to start, I believe, 1 March. I think they're having an open practice next weekend if weather permits. So,
all right. So that's it for our Xfinity Series preview at Daytona. We look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care, guys.